Assalamu alaikum. Let's start with a little recap of market economy. Market economy is a system where resources are all owned by the private sector and there is least to no government interference. Also, the forces of demand and supply decide how much to be produced, what to be produced, and at what price it needs to be sold. If businesses they don't respond timely to changing demands, they are penalized, and if they respond timely, then they are rewarded in form of profits and increased sales. The penalty is loss of sales and loss of revenue. Now, when we talk about market economy, the advantage of market economy in terms of efficiency is number one, allocative efficiency. Allocative efficiency means right good in the right quantity, nothing more and nothing less. If anything is underproduced, obviously there will be a shortage and there will be a price hike. If something is overproduced, there will be wastage of resources, there will be a surplus, and there will be reduction in the price where suppliers will suffer because they would have to sell their stuff at a price lower than what they are ready to accept. This allocative efficiency we have already done. When we get a question about advantages of market economy in the exam, or they ask you if they should switch to market economy, you will analyze them in terms of efficiency. After stating a few advantages, you will analyze it in terms of efficiency, whether allocative efficiency can be achieved or not. Second kind of efficiency that you will be looking at is productive efficiency. Productive efficiency is the need of market economy because you produce at the lowest possible cost. Anybody who's producing at the lowest possible cost will be the person or will be the business who will be able to provide goods and services at the most cost efficient price to people. Means if you produce at the lowest possible cost and you cannot bring costs down any further, this will be because either you have invested a lot in capital, either you have attained specialization. So whoever is a specialist can manufacture or produce or provide things at a rate and at a quality that others who do not specialize in the product cannot provide at. Nobody else can provide goods and services at that cost or that quality. So productive efficiency is the need of market economy. When market systems switch to market economy, productive efficiency is automatically achieved. As the prices need to be homogeneous, others also try to bring their prices down. This is in favor of the consumer, also in favor of the producer or the provider, because they get to attain specialization and they get to bring their costs down. When third thing is dynamic efficiency. But before observing dynamic efficiency, let's see what happens. If in market economy things are underproduced, or if at the PPC, production possibility curve, the businesses are producing at point D instead of point A, B and C, this means resources are sitting idle. If resources are sitting idle, you cannot achieve lowest possible cost. Why? The more input you put in and the more efficient your input is, the more efficient your output will be. Means people who are required to do the same kind of work, their wages will also not be higher. So the cost of introducing more input will not be too much, but the cost of producing that certain level of output will definitely come down. Instead of being able to produce 5 units in 1 hour, you will be able to produce maybe 10 units or 15 units or even 50 units, 50. So if the economy is operating below the production possibility curve, if the firm is operating below under the production possibility curve and it's not operating on the production possibility curve, there is a possibility that this business is going to fail and will not be able to survive in the market economy. What other things does point D mean? Point D means that some workers may be unemployed, means the business is not utilizing the proper or appropriate or full potential of the economy. Also, it means workers are engaged in jobs not suited to their skill sets. For example, in Pakistan, it's very popular whether a woman becomes a doctor, she becomes an engineer, or she becomes a financial analyst. Most of them, they get into teaching profession. Means they are unfit for their job. I wouldn't call it unfit, but they are in the wrong job, because somebody with their skill set needs to fill a position that requires that particular skill. That also makes the economy underproductive, and thus the firms, they have to operate below the production possibility curve because they are unable to find people who would be suitable for the jobs that they are offering. Another thing that operating at point D could mean is that there is spare production capacity. Means your capital can produce a lot more than you are producing right now, and some working space may also be empty. Some working space may also be empty. How? For example, you have a factory that can house 4 machines, but you have only 3 machines, so you use up that spare space to add in more capital and add more output. Or you have 4 machines already, but you are using only 3 machines to produce whatever you are producing. So when these things are happening, businesses are unable to achieve productive efficiency. Productive efficiency is achieved when the business operates on the production possibility curve of that business, not of that economy, but of that business. This business has to operate on any points lying on the production possibility curve and not under it. Third form of efficiency that we look at to evaluate whether market economy is good or not is the dynamic efficiency. Dynamic efficiency is achieved by investing in technology and processes over the period of time. This is achieved in the long run. Why and how? It's achieved in the long run because when businesses make huge profits, they reinvest some of those profits in attaining new technology and improving their processes, the core aim of which is to attain productive efficiency or to produce at the lowest possible cost. But automatically, when they are investing in technology, they are attaining dynamic efficiency. Dynamic means fast moving or constantly moving. When something is constantly moving, it means that we are talking in the long run as well. Also, it means that we will attain this kind of efficiency in the long run. Why dynamic efficiency is necessary? It is necessary to eliminate the threat of being out of business. Why? Because if there is some other business who has better technology and better processes, they would be able to produce at better cost as compared to this business which has technology which is not upgraded. Also, the processes of the upgraded technology business will be fast enough and they will be able to produce more at a lesser cost. So, in order to increase the profits, the businesses need to bring their costs down without compromising quality, for which they have to invest in technology and be dynamically efficient. Okay, all right. For example, let's do the math. If some business is in business for 15 years and one business is in business for 3 years, obviously the business that has been in the business, or the firm that has been in business for 15 years, has more specialization, they have more experience, they must have better technology, better processes, and better outcomes. This is an assumption because time frame does not matter. A business that invests wisely and is keen to upgrade may achieve the very same status within 3 years as compared to the one that has been in business for 15 years. Anyway, over a period of time, dynamic efficiency is attained because it requires money to be reinvested in technology and processes. So, this is how you will evaluate which kind of business is, which kind of a market system is good. We are done with market economy, so the next chapter is that of market failure. When we talk about market failure, are we talking about the market system? No, we are talking about the economy as a whole. No matter which system the economy is following, is whether it's a planned economy, it's command economy, it's market economy, or it's mixed economy. Failures can occur. What is the definition of market failure? Market failure occurs basically because of inefficient distribution of resources in the free market. I repeat, inefficient distribution of resources in the free market. Also, inefficient distribution of goods and services in the market. For example, if there is a product which needs to be produced, say you need to produce 100 units of a certain product, but you are producing 125, means you are overproducing and overutilizing resources. The resources used to produce this extra 25 could have been used in some place where they were actually needed. Second kind of market failure is that the need is of 100 units but you are producing 80 units. It means that the resources required to produce the extra 20 units are being utilized elsewhere, means they are not properly used. When such a thing happens, then market failure occurs, right? So, when we are talking about market failures, we are talking about externalities. What are externalities? Externalities are side effects. Side effects can be positive, can be negative. Now, a question here is, how can side effects be positive? Positive side effect means that you did not actually intend to produce that outcome, but that outcome was produced nonetheless, and that becomes a positive externality. Let me give you an example for both of them so that you will understand. Now, we need to understand one thing. Who experiences externality? As we have discussed earlier in our classes, that there are economic agents, right? There are economic agents. One economic agent is the government, one is the individuals, and one is the producers. So, individuals and producers are normally directly involved in production and consumption of goods and services. Externality occurs when there is a beneficial impact or a harmful impact on the third party. Who is the third party? Not directly involved in production and selling of goods and services, or even consumption of goods and services. For example, if defense weapons are produced, what happens? Those weapons, they can save our country, and that's going to benefit us. but we are not directly involved in neither purchase of those arms and weapons, nor we are involved in production of those weapons, yet we are receiving positive side effect or positive byproduct. For the example of a negative or harmful externality is smoking. There's a term called a passive smoker. Passive smoker is somebody who inhales the smoke of the cigarette by sitting with somebody who smokes. If I am not directly smoking a cigarette, but I'm around somebody who is smoking a cigarette, I am also inhaling that smoke, and that smoke is going to cause harm to me as well. This will be example of a negative externality. Now, externality occurs when all kinds of costs and benefits are not taken into account. What do I mean by that? All kinds of costs. There are two kinds of costs: private costs and social cost. Similarly, there are two kinds of benefits: private benefit and external benefit. Among them, there's a concept. One concept is that of a social cost. Social means anything related to the society as a whole. Social cost is SC, means private cost plus external cost. Private cost is PC, external cost is EC. Private cost is always borne by parties directly involved, means consumers and producers, and external costs are borne by third party, which are not who are not directly involved in either consumption or production. That will be a social cost. We will see if social cost is higher than private cost, it is something which is harmful, means this product has caused more harm to the society. But in case of benefits, social benefit is equals to SB is equals to private benefit plus external benefit. Private benefit is for the party directly involved, external benefit is for the third party. Private benefit, external benefit. When social benefit is greater than private benefit, then this product is useful, means privately people have benefited from this product, but the overall impact on the society is greater, right? For example, quitting smoking, people quitting smoking, the impact on individual is less, but impact on the society as a whole or the passive smokers is greater. So this will be a useful thing to do. But when we are talking about cost is always from viewpoint of a supplier. When something is manufactured, there is a cost that the private party bears, and there's a cost that the society bears. For example, a shopping mall needs to be constructed. The private cost is construction of the shopping mall, but external cost is demolition of the park that was on that ground where the shopping mall is being built. So in this case, external cost is greater than private cost. Therefore, social cost is greater because the society has borne more nuksan as compared to the benefit that is being derived from the shopping mall. Now, let's have a look at what are the causes of market failure. Number 1, production of goods and services that cause negative side effects. For example, excavation of oil, it destroys a lot of oil fields. Second one, Production of goods and services that cause positive side effects. For example, construction of roads and trainings. When roads are being constructed, everybody takes advantage of those roads irrespective of whether they pay taxes or they don't. How do trainings generate positive externality? When government provides, or when even the private companies, they provide trainings for their employees, these employees in turn increase their productivity and efficiency and benefit the organization as a whole, which in turn benefits the entire economy as a whole. Also, a well trained workforce attracts people from overseas who would want to either come and conduct business within your country, or they would want to hire your workforce overseas. Next, number 3 is consumption of demerit goods, which is cigarettes. It causes harm. A question that arises here is how cigarettes are causing harm. Demerit good is a good which is harmful, which has more disadvantages as compared to benefits. It has less benefits and more, and it has less benefits and it causes more harm. How does consumption of cigarette cause externality? I told you, through passive smoking. Number 2, in countries where the government provides healthcare services free to people, it becomes a huge burden on them when people get affected by smoking, when they encounter cancers, when they encounter lung diseases. The burden of healthcare expenditure increases on the government because there will be more people who would need medical services, and the government would have to provide for them as they would have no other choice. Let's look at number 4. Number 4 is consumption of merit goods. It produces positive externality. Is positive externality also good? Also bad? Externality in itself is bad. It means that extra resources are delegated to some place where those resources should not have been, and the resources should have been employed in a better place so as to produce more outcome or be more productive. Number 4, consumption of merit goods, example, education and healthcare services. When the workforce is healthy, there is less absenteeism in the firms or in organizations. When there's less absenteeism, also there's less what do we call that, काम का हर्ज कम होगा. The work will not be compromised a lot when the number of absentees will reduce. Why the number of absentees will reduce? Because the workforce will be healthy. Next is education. When the workforce is educated, they would be inspired to become entrepreneurs. They would be inspired to produce better outcomes as compared to less educated workforce in workplaces wherever they are working. Let's look at number 5. Provision of public goods. It leads to a free rider problem. What is the free rider problem? Free rider problem is people availing things for free. For example, healthcare and roads are public goods. There may be people who would want to go to doctors even if they have sneezed, right? That becomes a free rider problem, that everybody wants to avail something for free. Let me define the free rider problem for you properly. Free rider problem refers to its type of a market failure that occurs when those who benefit from resources do not pay for them, right? Example of a free rider problem from your real life can be group projects. In group projects, some team members may contribute very little, and the others would be relying on others to do their work. Everybody wants that project to get cleared because their marks are dependent on them. This has actually happened to me when I was in university during MBA. I did not encounter any such problem during MPhil, but in MBA, yes, we were assigned a group project for, I think, strategic management, and I told my teacher before the final project date, I told him, see sir, I am not going to work in a team, I'm going to work as an individual. He asked me a few questions, and the main question was, what is the issue? I said, people in my group, they are relying on me because I was the highest scholarship holder in that batch, so people, and intelligent. Even I don't know how I was intelligent, but I had gotten to know in my MBA that I didn't need to even read books and I could score, alhamdulillah, whatever I wanted. So everybody knew me, as my name was always there on the notice board with the highest scholarship scored person. So as the high scholarship scoring person, so people knew me very well. They were relying on me that I'm not going to mess up the project, so I'm going to give it my 100%, and I will help them pass the project. I went to my teacher and I told him that people are not working, they are relying on me, and I'm not going to let people get marks for free, so I'm going to work individually. Sir agreed to it, and he did not ask me when I'm going to inform the group. And me being me, I did not inform the group at all. On the final presentation day, everybody was like, where's our project? And I was like, what project? I have my individual project. Now you can fend for your own self what you want to do and how you are going to present anything at all. So I avoided the free rider problem by taking a stand, but on economic level and on government level, free rider problem cannot be avoided, and it arises definitely because everybody cannot pay for services that they are receiving, especially services such as using the road and using the public park. Then we have existence of monopoly. Monopoly means one seller who can charge whatever they like, whether it a huge sum of money for something that actually costs $10, and this person may ask you to pay $100, and you would have no other choice if what they are selling is an essential, for example, rice, and any necessity such as a medicine. So exploitation can take place, and in monopoly, resources are always underutilized because in order to keep prices high, monopolists always create shortages deliberately. For example, they may have the inventory with them and they can withhold it instead of supplying it in the market, giving the market an impression that the demand is for 100 units, but only 75 units are available in the market for sale. Now, when the prices increase due to shortage, now they tell the sellers, okay, we have the extra 25 units, we have manufactured it, or whatever lies they want to tell about it, then they would supply those remaining 25 units instead of supplying them right with the first batch. That is an act of exploitation. So in exploitation, resources are underutilized and things are overpriced some of the time. Just giving you a small sneak peek into what a monopoly is. In monopoly, they have no motivation to produce at the lowest possible cost because they have no competition. There's nobody who will start producing at the lowest possible cost, and their monopoly will break. In today's times where we live in, it's very difficult to break any monopoly at all. So the monopolist does not need to produce at the lowest possible cost. They produce slightly high above the lowest possible cost. Okay, all right. these are the reasons why market failure occurs. Then we have private and social costs. Private, as I explained earlier, is for parties that are directly involved. They can be customers, they can be suppliers. So private cost, any cost that an individual or a firm pays in order to buy or produce goods and services is called private cost. Private costs include cost of labor, cost of material and machinery or capital. Now, private parties, they do not take into account any harm that their business activity or economic activity may produce. For example, waste being dumped in the river. We have heard it from our childhood that factories, they dump their waste in the rivers. By dumping their waste in the rivers, they are increasing the social cost and the external cost. First, they are increasing external cost, which will eventually lead to increased social cost. The question here is how they are increasing the external cost, which cost the society would have to bear if any business dumps their waste in the river. River is a place where a lot of seafood resides. We get the seafood from there. If the seafood lives in contaminated waters, if the seafood lives in contaminated waters, then obviously the fish that people will catch is contaminated. It will lead to health problems, etc. So this is a huge cost to the society. When does the damage take place? When social cost is greater than private cost. Private cost is the benefit, because after producing this they are going to sell it and receive a benefit. However, when social cost is greater than private cost, then there is a damage that is caused and there will be a negative externality. In case social costs are less than private costs, means if society does not have to bear any cost, they will definitely benefit from it, even if it's to a small extent, but they will benefit from it. The costs are low, social costs are low or less than private costs, means this activity, this business activity overall has a positive impact in terms of benefits to the society, as the society does not have to bear extensive costs for something they are not directly involved in. Social cost. What is a social cost? Social cost is the sum of private cost and external cost. External cost is borne by individuals not directly involved in production or consumption or of goods and services, and these people who are not directly involved are often referred to as third party. It results from an economic transaction. Social cost and external cost results from an economic transaction. Example: import of cars. What is the external cost that the society will have to bear when those cars will be running on the streets? The cost that they would have to bear is the smoke and pollution from those cars. That pollution can be noise pollution as well. Now, the good part in economics is whenever we are looking at costs and benefits, majority of them are not monetary costs and monetary benefits, because a question that might come in mind is that if I'm not paying for something, मैं किसी चीज़ के पैसे ही नहीं दे रही, तो cost कैसे है? We call there's a phrase in Urdu जिसको हम कहते हैं हर्ज होना या एक नुकसान आपका होना. Nuksan is not always monetary. It can be non-monetary as well, such as emotional nuksan or physical nuksan, which has nothing to do with money, right? So, smoke from the cars is an external cost that the society will have to bear, because the society never asked anybody to import more cars. if they are being imported, why the society has to suffer in terms of pollution and in terms of noise? Because they never asked for it, right? So this is private cost and social cost. Then we have benefits. Benefits are also private benefits, social benefits, and external benefits. Social benefit is private benefit plus external benefit. When external benefit is greater than private benefit, then this economic transaction is good for the economy. When social cost is in social cost, when external, yeah, sorry, let's talk about benefits. When external benefit is less than private benefit, then this transaction is bad for the economy, right? So we have to look at benefits but when and costs both, but when businesses they fail to take into account social cost and social benefits, then externalities occur, and those are normally negative externalities. Okay, now in the next class inshallah we will look at market failure using the demand and supply diagram, and we will look at under allocation, over allocation of resources, and misuse of resources. Also, when we are looking at market failure leads to a very important phenomenon which is called government intervention. Government intervention means government interference and how government plays their role in avoiding or dealing with market failure. So I'm going to talk about it inshallah in the next class. Please make sure that you watch this video before the next class. Take care. Allah Hafiz.